In this video, I will be critiquing myself.
I don't love it. I don't swallow.
This is my first time doing this, so let me know in the comments if you like this type of content, or give me your own feedback on my drawing to help me grow as an artist. So let's begin. Okay, so here's the first pose. Now, I like the overall vibe of this image and drawing, but I feel like it could have exaggerated the bend in the body a little bit more. For instance, her torso could have been positioned differently to give a more expressive line of action. I would have loved to see more of that curve. And overall, I think it's a solid drawing in my opinion, but I definitely would have loved to see more bend to the whole body. More curves were needed, definitely. Also, I critique the legs. They feel a little bit different than the rest of the pose. It's not a bad drawing, but it definitely could be improved in its overall shape. And I give it like a 7 out of 10, so let's move on to the next one. Looking at the original reference, I feel like I need to be more accurate with the shoulders. The shoulders should be more accurate and placed differently to better match the angle of the pose. Also, I need to focus on adding more overlaps. When you're drawing clothing like this oversized t-shirt, creating those overlapping shapes is what really gives the drawing volume. It makes it look less flat. Overall, I'm giving this sketch 5 out of 10. There's definitely room to grow here, but identifying these specific areas for improvement is exactly what this practice is for. Moving on to this pose. I think this one is good overall. However, looking at the anatomy and the structure, I definitely need to work on the proportions of the leg. It feels a bit off compared to the rest of the figure, but aside from that, I'm pretty happy how the rest of the gesture came out. I think it's a good example of where I need to pay closer attention to how the limbs connect to the body. Alright, let's look at this one. Honestly, I don't hate this drawing. I feel like the upper body is really well executed. It's almost perfect, I think. However, the legs are where things start to need work. Specifically, I need to look at where the foot actually sits. The negative space between the legs is a huge factor here. I should have used the space to better define the pose. If I had adjusted the right foot, which is definitely a little bit off, it would have anchored the whole sketch much better. I could also probably refine the hands a bit more, but overall, the structure is solid. I mean, for a quick 2-minute drawing, I think the accuracy is there. But I want to know what you guys think. Feel free to drop your own critiques in the comments. I'd love to see what you're spotting that I might have missed. Alright, I really like this drawing. I think it's a very solid piece. There are only a few minor issues to address, starting with the feet. The placement needs to be a bit more accurate, specifically on the left foot. It needs to be more angled, more towards us to really sell the perspective of the pose. And then there's the shoulder. The placement there is just a little bit off and could use a slight adjustment to look more natural. I also think some more wrinkles in the clothing were needed to really bring out the form. But honestly, despite those small tweaks, I really like how this turned out. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. Moving on to this piece. I actually really like a lot of what I've done here, but to push it further, the first thing I criticize is the head's overall position. The directional gaze is so important. I think her eyes should be tracking more in this specific direction to sell the intent of the pose. And next, I'd look at the torso. The shift in the upper body needs to be more exaggerated. It needs more twist to feel truly dynamic. I'd also adjust the proportions slightly by making her a bit taller with longer legs to give the silhouette more grace. The hand shapes also need a bit of more work to feel fully realized, and I'd spend more time on the texture of the curly hair. I mean, even with those notes, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. You have to give credit where credit is due, and honestly, this is a solid drawing. It's important to recognize when you're hit the mark while still seeing where you can level up. There's a lot to fix here. First, the cap direction and placement needs to be adjusted. And next, the eye and nose placement both need significant adjustments. And for the upper body traits, I should focus on my curves and straights. Overall, this is like a 4 out of 10. It's nowhere where it needs to be, and it's going to take a lot of work to fix it. I actually like this one. Overall, it's a solid drawing. However, I would add a bit more space here to create better foreshortening in the pose. And to make that work, the distance needs to be shorter, so I'd move the hand position to right about here. The legs also need some work. The curvature and direction are off. It almost looks as if her legs are broken, so we definitely need to address that. By adjusting the direction of the feet, the whole pose should snap into place. Other than those directional tweaks, I think it's cool. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. At first, I didn't think I could find anything wrong with this until I actually realized we forgot to add the length. It's uncompleted. The head placement is off and needs to be longer. If the eyes go here, the top of the head should be extended up to about here. And then aside from that, I need more distinct shapes and better definition in the hands and arms. And because of that head placement mistake, I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. Looking at the next one, my first impression is that I just didn't have enough time to finish it. The ear placement needs work, adjusting the length based on the perspective. And I also should have added more distinction by indicating shadows to give it depth. The hair needs better flow as well. And finally, the shoulders should be positioned lower. Because of the shoulders and the unfinished state, this is another 5 out of 10. For this drawing, I feel like the eyes should be more extended, longer and narrower. And I also had some sharper angles throughout it. There just needs to be more information in the drawing overall. The lips should be longer, the eyelids need that same narrow angular feel. In fact, everything needs to be narrower and more angular to give it the right distribution. If I had more time, I would have added shading on this side to really define the form. Looking at the overall face, it needs to be longer. That's the main change I'd make. Just make the whole face longer. I'm going to give this drawing a 4 out of 10. Okay, this one looks somewhat similar to the original, but again, I changed the eye placement. I also think the negative space here is a bit off. The hair should come down straight first and then flow out like this to fix that space. Moving down, I really have to work on the shoulder placement. The neck and the body flow need to be adjusted to align correctly. And I also noticed the braid and hair direction need work. They should follow a more natural flow. Even the ear placement needs to be shifted. Between the negative space, the hair direction, and the ribbons, there's just a lot of flow issues to address here. Overall, I'm giving this a 5 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful for you to see how I critique my own work. This is actually my first time making a video like this. And the whole goal is just to push myself to do better. Hopefully, I'll keep getting better at these self-critiques. And I'll see you all in the next session.